Hello future teacher, in this video we will learn another lesson for understanding the self entitled Concept of Self. So in the concept of self, let's define again the term self. The self is made up of many self-perceptions, abilities, and personality characteristics that are organized and consistent with one another. Self-perception talks about how you see yourself right now. And how do you see or what do you know about your abilities? Or what are your personality characteristics? So this will change depending on how you see yourself. And again, it could change from before and up to now and in the future. How we see ourselves will change over time. And next is the self-theory. The person behind self-theory is this one. He is Carl Rogers, the proponent of self-theory. And according to Carl Rogers, our self is divided into two categories. The first one is the ideal, and the second one is the real self. Again, the two categories of self according to Carl Rogers, the ideal self and the real self. Ideal self is how we want ourselves to be in the future. Do you want to become successful? Do you want to become a politician? Do you want to become someone who helps other people? The philanthropist type? Do you want to become a beauty queen? Do you want to become cum laude? Someone who is successful. That's the usual ideal self of everyone. And the next is the real self. Real self is yourself right now. How you see yourself right now in the real world. Okay, you're not imagining, but what's the reality? What are you doing right now? Okay, are you lazy or you're already diligent? So, either positive or negative. You are just the only person who can really assess what is your real self. Now, according also to Carl Rogers, if our ideal self or our real self, or in this case, in this illustration, it's termed as perceived self, they overlap with each other. However, if the ideal self is very far from your perceived self or real self, they just overlap a little. And so, your ideal self and your real self is having incongruence. And if they are incongruent, it is more likely that you have poor self-worth. You have low self-esteem. Let's say, for example, your ideal self is you want to graduate cum laude. Your ideal self. Graduating with flying colors. However, when you assess yourself right now, what you see of your real self is that you are very lazy. You just submit projects for compliance only. You're not making an effort in creating your projects, your requirements. And so, they are not going to meet. There is incongruence with your ideal self and your real self. And somehow it will affect your self-worth. Okay? Self-image is different to ideal self if they are congruent, and so only a little overlap, and self-actualization will be difficult. You will have difficulty in achieving what you really want to have, the thing that you will feel happy about. Okay? Whereas, if your ideal self is to become successful and your real self right now, you can assess by yourself that yes, you are very diligent. You're making everything you can. You are performing at your best. And so, they are aligned. They are congruent. And very similar, there's a big overlap between the ideal self and the perceived self or real self. And so, you can actually self-actualize. You will feel or you will fulfill your dreams because they are aligned. So hopefully you got the idea of these two illustrations of how Carl Rogers explained the importance of having congruent ideal self and real self. Now, I will give you some time, like 10 seconds, to think of what is your ideal self and assess your real self right now. Okay, so hopefully you are done. Now let's proceed to the self-concept. According to Plutnik and Kuyum Jan, on the year 2014, self-concept refers to how people see or describes themselves, like right now. So meaning to say, real self is equivalent to self-concept, somehow equivalent to self-concept. And according to Carl Rogers, there are three components of self-concept. First is the self-image, next is the ideal self, and next is the self-esteem or self-worth. Okay, when you ask yourself, who am I? So, you should be able to answer this. First is the self-image. So, how do you see yourself right now? So, that's part of self-concept. Your ideal self, that's still part of your self-concept. And your self-esteem. Okay, for example, currently, you are having, or when you look at yourself in the mirror, you see yourself as someone who is not, or who is not good in communication. Who is not good in your communication, and then you stop going to school. Let's say, for example, you stop going to school. However, your ideal self is, being successful. Now, there's conflicting ideas. You're poor, you're not able to go to school, and your ideal self, you want to become successful. It will somehow affect your confidence, your self-esteem. Kesyo ganito lang ako. Yun siya. Parang yung iniisip mo, hindi mo mararating yung paroroonan mo. So, because they are conflicting ideas, your ideal self and real self. So, your self-esteem, your self-worth, your self-confidence will be low. Whereas, you see yourself right now as someone who is working hard, a hardworking person. Hardworking ako na pagkatao. And your ideal self is successful. And so, diba, they are aligned. And this will affect how you communicate with other people, how you express yourself to other people. So again, the three concepts of self-concept, self-image, ideal self, and self-esteem. And the most interesting part is the factors. Did you know that there are factors that actually influence our self-concept? And this is according to Carl Rogers. So the very first factor that influences our self-concept is our parents' attitudes. How did our parents raise us? Okay? When Carl Rogers made this theory, he was actually dealing with patients, mga pasyente with emotional disorders. And did you know what he found out? The common denominator of these people with emotional disorders was that they have poor self-concept because their parents discouraged them when they were still young. Because their parents or guardians made them believe that they are not capable of doing things. They were discouraged. So for example, kids love to play, right? Especially boys. Boys normally, most of the boys rather, love to play basketball. And so, when you are still a kid, you want to play basketball. However, you are not yet tall. And so, your parents told you or told the kid that you can't play basketball because you are too short. And so, what happened? The kid heard those discouraging words, and it affected somehow his self-esteem. He believed that he couldn't play basketball because his parents told him so, that he can play basketball. So I believe that happens to most of us, that we are actually discouraged by the people around us. It has somehow affected our belief of ourselves, that we cannot do some things because they told us that we can't do it. Something like that. And so that's just one factor. And the second factor is the belief we hold about ourselves right now. And also the perception of us, of other people. So if the second one is our internal awareness, internal self-awareness, so it will build our self-concept, it can influence our self-concept, and also the external awareness, the people around us, it can build our self-concept. Now, how much do you know yourself? Do you really know yourself? Okay, so now let's have positive regard. Positive regard is actually a feeling of love, sympathy, warmth, acceptance, and respect which we crave from our family, friends, and other significant people. So when we feel loved, more likely that we can develop our self-concept. We will be able to have successful interpersonal relationships with other people. Okay, because we feel that we belong in this family, in this classroom, and so that's the concept of positive regard. The positive feeling that we are being loved, we are accepted by everyone around us, and so we will live peacefully, right? And so we will be able to have harmonious relationship with other people. And so positive regard now has two types. The first is the conditional positive regard. And then the other one is the unconditional positive regard. Let's have first the conditional positive regard. You will feel loved, you will feel accepted by the people around you if you have met the expectations or standards of other, or the standards of these people. Let's say for example here, a teacher may reward students for passing the test, or your parents may reward you, give you money if you have passed the test. Yes, you will feel happy because somehow you have seen that the people around you appreciated your effort of studying, of doing good in your exam. So that's conditional positive regard. You felt love because you did something good. And then the second type is the unconditional positive regard. It's the opposite of the conditional positive regard. Unconditional positive regard is you will feel love regardless, okay, whether you have met the expectations or not. Okay, there's no condition. You will feel love whether you did good or bad in your exam. So some such as this example, parents may still love and respect their child even if the child flunks an exam. And so, actually, according to research, the best thing that a child could have is that this so-called unconditional positive regard. Because, again, according to research, if parents were just able to give this unconditional positive regard, children will eventually learn lessons in life. And also, it will be easy for them to achieve fulfillment, to achieve their high self-worth, to have high confidence. If only parents are oriented enough that they should give unconditional positive regard to their children. This time, we will discuss Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And according to Maslow, there are 5 needs that we people have in our lives. Okay, so according to Maslow, we need to satisfy first this need at the bottom, or before satisfying the needs in the upper level of the pyramid. And the highest form, or the highest need we have to fulfill, is this self-actualization. Let's start first with physiological needs. So physiological needs talks about anything that would satisfy our physical body. And that includes food, water, sleep, warmth, and also sex, being open-minded. So this is included. So we have this, instinct. It's normal for us to need this sex. Okay, so physiological needs should be satisfied first. We need to eat, we need to drink, we need to sleep, we need warmth in order for us to survive. That's physiological needs. And then if these needs were satisfied, we can now go to the second level, the safety needs. And safety needs, we can fulfill or satisfy this through providing ourselves with shelter, because that's how we can somehow perceive safety, having a shelter. And this also includes personal and financial security. If we have work, if we have money, we will feel safe that you can still go on with our lives tomorrow and the next months or years to come if we have money. So that's why it's included here. Financial security is included in safety needs. And then the next one, that the next need that we need to fulfill or satisfy is the social need. This talks about friendships, building relationships with other people, friendships, intimacy, and family, your relationship with your family. Okay, because again, as the famous saying says, no man is an island. It doesn't matter if you have satisfied your physiological needs, if you have eaten good food, if you have a big house, and then you don't have friends. So you will not, you will not be complete without satisfying your social needs. That's why you really have to build relationships, good and healthy relationships with other people. And then if you have satisfied this need, you will be able to focus next on your esteem needs. And this talks about your freedom, your recognition, your self-confidence, your, attention, receiving attention. Because when you're receiving attention, you will be able to build your self-confidence. You will have the feeling of being recognized, being appreciated if the attention of people is on you. So it will boost your self-confidence, your self-esteem. And also, esteem needs talks about competence. If you are feeling competent, if you are confident with your competence that you can do hard things, you can sing, you can act, talk in public, you win in competitions, you know for yourself that you are competent enough. And so that will satisfy your esteem needs. Just remember that it talks about your self-confidence. You also have to build your self-confidence, because the very last level or need that according to Maslow that we need to satisfy is the self-actualization, achieving full potential, seeking happiness. For example, though you have work, but your passion is really on painting. So you leave your work because you feel happy with painting. Doesn't matter if you have low salary, as long as you feel happy with what you are doing. So self-actualization is seeking happiness, finding the real thing that makes you happy. So according to them, only Mahatma Gandhi have reached self-actualization. Some of us are still here, very focused on satisfying our physiological needs, safety needs, social needs, and esteem needs. But only few people were able to do what they really want to do, because they focus more on, basically, what I really see with our society right now. They are striving right now, they are still striving right now to provide for themselves, to have stable career. Okay? And so, is it wrong? No, it's not wrong because it's our safety need. It's one of our safety need that we really need to have stable job. We need to have stable source of income. That's why as young as we are, it's important for us to achieve these things. So that in our later years, we'll be confident enough to just do the thing that makes us happy. So that we can achieve this self-actualization. Now, I want you to ask yourself, what really makes you happy? What really makes you contented? Because that's the only thing that's the only time that you will feel that you have achieved your full potential. Because wala ka nang hahanapin ka, masaya ka na sa kung anong ginagawa mo. Wala ka nang ibang iisipin because you have already established, you have already satisfied these needs below. Okay? So, hopefully, you have understood the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And once again, according to Maslow, Abraham Maslow, these needs are what we people needs to satisfy. Thank you so much for listening and God bless.